Now that we've introduced the book that gives us even more instruction and teaching about the rule of God, what we're praying will be brought about on the earth through the book of Proverbs. We talked about the author being a king and the addressees being all of God's people who are to rule with him. And you can see how all of this finds its place when we understand that Jesus is the King of Kings and that we are a royal priesthood. But the book of Proverbs was to give us wisdom, and now it's time to reflect upon wisdom itself. To help us out here, I'll raise 3 questions. Why attain wisdom? And then, what is wisdom? And where can wisdom be found? First of all, why attain it? Well, fundamentally, you attain it, says the proverb, in order to have life. Remember, I told you that in the first 9 chapters, the prologue that prepares your heart for the book, there are 10 lectures from the parent to the son. There's 2 interludes where woman wisdom is self-personified. Solomon's personified wisdom speaks, but they're all promising life. Let's take, for example, the second lecture, chapter 2, and how it ends. This is typical. For the upright will live in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the unfaithful will be torn from it. Life is a quality and a quantity. In the book of Proverbs, for the righteous, it never ends in death. And life is a quality. It's a life in relationship with God. Psalm 1 is a wisdom psalm, and it says, for the Lord knows the way of the righteous. Doesn't mean he knows about it. It means his spirit resonates with the way of the righteous. The righteous share his spirit, and there's compatico, there's simpatico. There is eternal life in that relationship, and it can never die. It's eternal life both in quantity and in quality. It promises us really health, wealth, and prosperity, and that's what's somewhat problematic about the book. But let me just give a taste of that. This is in the 3rd lecture. My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart. For they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor with God, with favor and a good name in the sight of God and man, and so forth. So this raises the question because the harsh realities of life don't quite confirm it. Many Christians suffer, die prematurely, don't enjoy prosperity. They're martyrs. And so the question is, are these heavenly promises so detached from earth's reality? Do the Proverbs promise too much? Many have attempted answers to this. For the time I have, I'll simply set forth some notions I think may be helpful as they are to me. First of all, the promises are partially validated by experience. We know that the wise generally live longer, and the sober, not the drunkard, will have a better life of health, wealth, and prosperity. And those who are not hotheads will have a better life, and so forth. So they're partially validated by experience. And the Proverbs are telling us within themselves that they need to be read holistically. There are counter-proverbs. The Proverbs problem with the Proverbs, people read them in isolation from one another, but you have to read the whole book. And it's quite clear when you read the whole book that these individual proverbs are not expressing the whole truth. To get the whole truth, you have to read all the Proverbs. For example, you get a counter Proverbs, better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. The proverb assumes that they can have much gain with injustice, and the wicked are triumphing, because where did they get the gain from? They got it from the innocent, from the righteous. And it's better, though. It's better to have little with righteousness, in spite of the fact there may be much gain with injustice. So the Proverbs themselves are, if you read them as a whole, are telling you there are counter-realities to life. And those Proverbs we just read are not telling us the whole everything. The third thing that may help us is to understand that Proverbs is a primer for youth, a primer for morality. The Proverbs look at the end of the matter, where it's all going to turn out. Well, here's a proverb. Do not lurk like a thief near the house of the righteous. Do not plunder their dwelling place. Now note, for though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. Notice what's happening here. It's just a concessive clause. Though the righteous fall 7 times. 7 is the number of completion, perfection. It's like being knocked down for the count of 10. Though you're knocked down for the count of 10, or the cat with its 9 lives, it's used up its 9 lives. He's out. For though the righteous falls 7 times, it's done. He rises again. That's the end of the matter. Job and book of Ecclesiastes, they're looking at the poor bloke on the mat, or he's being counted out for the count of 10. But book of Proverbs is not concerned with that. It's concerned with the end of the matter, how it all turns out. And how it all turns out is the righteous even outlast death. The final word is not in the grave. The final word is beyond the grave. The final word is not a shovel of dirt in your face. The final word is the resurrection of the dead. And the righteous, and the book of Proverbs looks to the righteous, the end of the matter outlasts death. And that's what you have to keep in view. Do not let your heart envy sinners, but always be zealous for the fear of the Lord. For there surely is a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. So we live by faith. And again, in the way of righteousness, there is life. Along that path is immortality. The Hebrew is most unusual here. It's the word for immortality. The NIV is one of the few translations that got it right. But you could see more on that and the development of it in either my commentary on Proverbs or in Old Testament theology. Here's another one. When calamity comes, the wicked are brought down. But even in death, the righteous seek refuge in God. The righteous know that death is not, clinical death is not the last word. Those who are related to God never die. And we've related to him through Jesus Christ.